Hi, my name is Amy Luther. I'm in the Human Resources Department at Dayton Superior, and I'm happy to welcome you to the Leadership Development Series. I wanted to start out telling you a story. The other day I was in a colleague's office and I noticed that he had a collection of business books, some of the same business books that I have. He had 7 Habits of Highly Effective Leaders, he had Drive, he had The Tipping Point, and I noticed the books and I said, hey, I just read the best book. I bet you would really, really like it. It's called The Power of Habit. And I said, it's about the science of habit formation. It's just really, really interesting. And he said, yeah, that sounds interesting. And he started to stall out. But, the problem with those books is I read them and I get really motivated and to make some changes, and then I don't make them. I just go back to my normal routine and I feel so disappointed. And so what he was really telling me, of course, was that he wasn't going to read the book. And something about that, I got the biggest kick out of it, because I thought, how perfect is that for all of us? We'll go to a class, go to some AMA class or whatever, and walk out of the class with these great resolutions for how it is that we're going to change professionally and some new habits that we'd like to put into place. And then we get back to our routine and we fall back into the same old routine and the changes don't happen. And, we feel like a failure for not having done the things that we had decided to do. And the reality is that you can't unlearn something. So even if your resolutions were not as successful as you wanted them to be, you walk away from that class with a new perspective, with having learned something that perhaps you didn't learn, or a refresher on something that you already knew. And it makes you a richer person for knowing that. And I think this is just the perfect way for us to start the Leadership Development Series, because I know probably each of you have that question, which is, yeah, this is good, but will I really do anything differently? Well, I don't know if you'll do anything differently or not, but learning something new or being exposed to new information is always a good thing, because it does contribute to who you are and makes a difference in some way, shape, or form. So I'm happy to welcome you. And what's perfectly great about that story is the irony. The book that I was telling him about, or trying to tell him about, is a book about how to change some of your habits. It studies the science of habit and then explains specifically how to put into place new habits or how to change an existing habit. And I think this is a great place for us to start. So the name of the book, in case you're interested in going out and getting it, is The Power of Habit. It's by Charles Duhigg, D-U-H-I-G-G. It has a yellow book jacket. And I'm just going to jump right in and tell you about the beginning of the book. The beginning of the book starts talking about, cognitive science and behavioral science, and it starts out with an experiment with lab rats. Psychologists love their lab rats. So, let me show you. They put a lab rat in a maze. It's a simple maze. It's a T-shaped maze. And so the lab rat's at one end, there's a bar of chocolate at one of the ends of the T. They raise the door, and there's a clicking noise when they raise the door. And the lab rat meanders out, sniffing. He smells the chocolate. He sniffs and meanders and wanders through this maze until he finally finds the chocolate. Well, they have this rat attached to a bunch of brain sensors, as you can imagine, and they track his brain activity. So this is what's great and what's interesting. Let's say this is resting brain activity. The rat's not doing anything, it's laying down. This is how much he's thinking. When this door clicks and the door opens and he smells chocolate, this is what happens to his brain. His brain goes wild. All right? So he's got all this activity, he's searching, he's sniffing, he's searching and looking, and then he finds the chocolate, yay, and there's the end of the maze. Now, by the 10th time that they repeat this same experiment with the same rat, as you can imagine, the rat knows where the chocolate is, right? It's become habit. So the brain activity on the 10th time looks a little bit more like this. Click, the rat hears the door. He gets so excited because he smells the chocolate and he knows how to do this. So his brain activity upon the click is like that. Then his brain activity drops down. He's running, running, running. It drops down next to nothing. And then he finds the chocolate. And his brain gets excited again. It has a reward. So what is so phenomenally interesting about this experiment is they discovered that the anticipation of a reward is as good as the reward itself. It's pretty fundamental, and it explains cravings, okay? So let me translate this lab rat experiment into something that's a little bit more useful to us. Let's say you're a smoker, and every day when you get off work, you go and you get in your car and you have a cigarette. And that cigarette signifies the end of the workday, the beginning of your time. It signifies relaxation. So, you're a smoker, you have a habit. You walk outside and you put your hand on that door handle. That's the trigger, right? Door handle. Get in the car and light up. You smoke a cigarette and you feel relaxed, and that's your reward. Your brain gets pretty used to this cycle, so the reward itself creates anticipation for the reward, which happens upon the trigger, and you have a cycle. So is it an impermeable cycle? Is it something that you can never change? No. That's what's so great about this book, is it explains that you may not be able to throw out a habit altogether. For example, the smoker in this example still needs to feel relaxed at the end of the day. They still want to feel as though they're on their own time, and they need to let down a little bit and let go of some of that workday anxiety. But they don't need to smoke. They don't need that habit. So the book explains all you need to do is you need to alter out some portion of the cycle in order to change a habit. So this month, what I would like for each of us to do is to take a look at one of our habits. It can be a personal habit like smoking or eating or exercise, or it can be a workplace habit like procrastination, for example. If you were to pick a workplace habit like procrastination, think about what the triggers are for procrastination. If I'm procrastinating, one of the reasons that I sometimes procrastinate is that I've reached a question or a task that I don't exactly know the answer to. It's complex, or it requires some research or some thought. It's complex, it throws me into procrastination. Right? So I put it off, it gets pushed to the edge of the desk, and I tackle other things first. When you're thinking about what some of your habits are and how to change the cycle, probably the most complicated part to think about is the reward. What could possibly be a reward for procrastinating? Right? I mean, we all know that's a pretty bad habit, and that not a lot of good comes from procrastinating. But if you think about it, one of the rewards for procrastination might be a sense of control, that you feel as though you're in control of your own time and you will do that task when you are darn good and ready, right? So if you were to alter out a cycle like procrastination, maybe you put control in as the habit itself. So the trigger is a complicated task, and you control that complicated task by mastering it, by tackling it right away, and then you're rewarded with a sense of accomplishment. So this month, I'm not challenging you with changing any habits or creating any new habits. What I am challenging you with, and I'm challenging myself with, is let's look at a habit. Pick one habit and diagram it. Think of what the trigger is, describe the habit itself, and think of the reward. And you may find yourself in a better position to go back and change that habit. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to doing this again. If you have any suggestions or thoughts about content that you would like to see in the Leadership Development Series, please give me a phone call. I'm here for you. Thanks.